Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to Armed Forces Day and Reserves Day, and I hope that we also recognise we need to do far more for veterans in their housing and health needs as well. I would also like, Mr. Speaker, to pay tribute to the firefighters tackling the blaze on Saddleworth Moor. I'm sure all our thoughts are with the firefighters and their community and families, and the member for Stalybridge and Hyde is there today to support them. On Brexit, Mr. Speaker, the Business Secretary believes that business is entitled to be listened to with respect. I'm sorry to see the Foreign Secretary is not here today with us. He takes a very different view, using an Anglo-Saxon term to make his point. Which is the Prime Minister's view?
Prime Minister.
This party and this government has always been a party that will back business and will continue to back business. And we back business because it is businesses that create millions of jobs for people in our country, that provide billions of pounds in tax that we can spend on our public services. It is businesses that are the backbone of our prosperity. And can I say to the right honourable gentleman, if he wants to start standing up and talking in favourable terms about business, he's got a decision to make. He can either back business or he can want to overthrow capitalism. He can't do both.
Mr. Speaker, I take the Prime Minister's response as a thumbs down to the Foreign Secretary. In recent days, there have been unprecedented concerns raised by trade unions, business and even some cabinet ministers. Today, the CBI Director General said facts ignored today mean jobs lost tomorrow. Airbus supports 110,000 jobs in the UK supply chain, many of them very highly skilled, well-paid and unionised jobs. The company says no deal would force Airbus to reconsider its footprint in the country, its investments and its dependency in the UK. Can the Prime Minister reassure thousands of workers today and take the phony threat of no deal off the negotiating table?
Prime Minister.
I say to the right honourable gentleman, he has raised the question of Airbus. Yeah. Well, if he is so concerned about our aerospace and aviation industry, why did he not back the expansion of Heathrow in this chamber?
Mr. Snell, calm yourself. Acquire the quality of an aspiring statesperson. Calm. The question has been asked. The answer from the Prime Minister must and will be heard. The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I say to members of this House, I don't normally agree with the Secretary-General of Unite, but on this occasion I actually do agree with him, because he says that backing the expansion, the third runway at Heathrow, would ensure our country remains a world leader in aviation and aerospace.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Foreign Secretary didn't back it either, but in his own way he was helping the aviation industry by spending 14 hours in a plane for a 10-minute meeting in Afghanistan. Mr. Speaker, the government is not threatening the EU with this ridiculous position. It's threatening skilled jobs in this country. But at least there's one government minister that understands this. That's the honourable member for Aberconwy. He asks, I think it's about the Health and Foreign Secretaries, do the Tory leadership aspirations of multimillionaires trump the need to listen to the employers and employees of this country? Well, apparently they do. The head of BMW, directly employing over 8,000 workers in this country, 8,000 jobs in this country, said they need to know the government's plans for customs, and said if we don't get clarity in the next couple of months, we will have to start making contingency plans.
Order. Apologise. The Prime Minister was heard. No concerted attempt from either side of this House to shout a member down will ever succeed. However long it takes, the Prime Minister will be heard and the Leader of the Opposition will be heard. Get the message. Jeremy Corbyn.
Go on, Jeremy. The noise of people hiding behind the gallery is interesting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking the Prime Minister how many more firms are telling the Prime Minister in private what Airbus and BMW are now saying very, very publicly.
Prime Minister.
We have been meeting with business. We are listening to business. That's why we're very clear on our customs arrangement that we want to ensure not just that we deliver on our commitment in Northern Ireland, but also as frictionless trade as possible, but also that we can trade around the rest of the world. But if we're talking about plans for government for business, it is this government that has brought the deficit down. It is this government that is seeing employment at record levels. What would Labour's three-point plan for business be? A 7% rise in corporation tax, nationalisation without compensation and a run on the pound. That's not backing business, it's a plan to break Britain.
Mr. Speaker, it's very interesting that even those Brexiteers who've made Brexit their life's work are concerned about their own financial interests. The honourable member for North East Somerset, for example, is relocating his hedge fund to the Eurozone. The honourable member for Wokingham is advising his clients to disinvest in Britain. Meanwhile, in the real world, Andrew, who works for Honda in Swindon, wrote to me and said, "I wouldn't laugh if I was you. These are real people with real jobs and real concerns." And he writes, "I've seen nothing that gives me confidence the government is going to deliver a trade agreement allowing the seamless flow of goods through Europe's borders. My job, along with many others in manufacturing, suppliers and supply chains, hang on this." So will the Prime Minister ignore her Foreign Secretary, listen to workers and secure an agreement that safeguards jobs in this country?
Prime Minister.
We are putting jobs at the heart of what we do in relation to Brexit. We're putting jobs at the heart of what we do as a government through our modern industrial strategy, and we are ensuring that when we deliver Brexit, we will be delivering a Brexit that is good for our economy, good for jobs, and good for people up and down this country. But the right honourable gentleman, I think, through most of his career, has actually been rather a Brexiteer himself. Why is it then that at every stage he and the Labour Party are trying to frustrate Brexit in this House?
Jeremy Corbyn.
The Labour Party's priority is defending jobs in this country. And, Mr. Speaker, I doubt that Andrew from Swindon is alone amongst skilled workers when he goes on to say, "I will hold the Prime Minister and her party culpable if my job and those of my colleagues at Honda end up being under threat." The Cabinet was split into two, apparently, to look at options for a future customs arrangements with the EU. The Prime Minister's preferred option was a customs partnership. We've had no official feedback on that working party. So did the Leader of the House speak for the government when she said on Monday, "I think the customs partnership looks quite bureaucratic and unwieldy"? Is that option now ruled out as well?
Prime Minister.
As I've made clear on a number of occasions in this House, we are looking at both options in relation to customs because we want to ensure that what we deliver is that frictionless trade as possible with the European Union and an ability for us to negotiate trade deals around the rest of the world. That's what we should be looking for. It's what we're doing as a government. As a Labour Party, he says a Labour Party's interest is in delivering jobs. Why is it then that every Labour government leaves office with more people out of work than when they went in?
from a Prime Minister who presides over an economy where 1 million people are on 0 hours contract. That is very rich. She rules out a customs union. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister rules out a customs union, the Leader of the House rules out the Prime Minister's preferred option, and reality rules out a maximum facilitation model. That only leaves no deal, which he refuses to rule out. She is putting jobs at risk. Sadly, it's not those of the warring egos in her cabinet, because they've now been rewarded with an invite to a pyjama party at Chequers. Meanwhile, thousands of skilled manufacturing jobs and the future of whole industries in Britain are at stake. The Prime Minister continues to promote the fallacy that no deal is better than a bad deal. No deal is a bad deal. But isn't the truth that real jobs...
Order, order. I apologise to the right honourable gentleman. I'll say it again. There is unlimited time as for order. There is unlimited time as far as I'm concerned. Order. The questions will be heard, and the order and the answers will be heard, and nothing and no one will stop that happening. It's as simple and unmistakable and clear as that. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No deal is a bad deal, but isn't the truth that the real risk to jobs in our country is a Prime Minister who is having to negotiate round the clock with their own cabinet to stop it falling apart, rather than negotiating to defend jobs of workers in this country?
Prime Minister.
I'll tell the right honourable gentleman what I and this government are delivering. We're delivering a successor to Trident, stamp duty slash for first-time buyers, a modern industrial strategy for jobs and growth, action on childhood obesity, 1.9 million more children in good or outstanding schools, fairer schools funding, new technical education, improved mental health services, expansion of Heathrow, record levels of employment, falling borrowing, rising real wages. We've triggered Article 50, we've agreed an implementation period, we've passed the EU withdrawal bill, a Britain fit for the future and leaving the European Union on the 29th of March 2019.